Hello, I'm Robin Henning, and welcome to another Exchange Life Nugget of Truth. Have you ever found yourself frustrated with the Lord because you're doing the right thing, you're doing the thing He wants you to do, only to have your life circumstances shift for the worse? I have friends right now facing some really tough choices. If they do the right thing, it's going to cost them dearly. The reality is that they're in really good company with the saints of old, especially one of my heroes whose name is Joseph. Here's a guy who genuinely wanted to do the right thing and to walk with the Lord. In fact, his brothers hated him for being a do-gooder and for being daddy's favorite. In fact, he ratted them out on more than one occasion, and they hated him for it. He did the right thing, and it led to their choice to sell him to Ishmaelites, who then in turn sold him to Potiphar in Egypt. He becomes a slave. He goes from doing the right thing, being the favored son of his father Jacob or Israel, and he gets sold as a slave to Egypt. I'm sure there was an immense internal battle going on in Joseph. He's probably thinking something like, what just happened, Lord? I did the right thing and you let this happen? Trust me, the accuser of the brethren was going at him hard. But he still chooses to do the right thing. And as a result, God blesses him and brings him up to prominence in Potiphar's household, and he becomes chief steward. He runs the whole thing. Potiphar concerned himself with nothing except what he was going to eat that night. So while he's there, God is training him and teaching him all kinds of administrative skills, all kinds of leadership skills. He understands the Egyptian culture, all of it. All of it he's being equipped with. He doesn't know why. He just knows that he's going to do the next right thing. So along comes Potiphar's wife, who notices how handsome Joseph is and says, "Sleep with me." And he's like, "I ain't doing that. I'm not going to sin against the Lord. I'm not doing that to Potiphar." He chooses to do the right thing. And then she finds an opportune time when they're alone and sets him up. She tries to drag him off to bed, and he's like, no, he flees almost naked. He flees with a robe, his outer garment in her hand, and she accuses him of attempted rape. A false accusation. It's not just, but because he's a slave, Potiphar's going to believe wife over Joseph. And so he winds up going from being chief steward of Potiphar's household to jail time, unjustly. Again, the enemy's probably just nailing him with, what, Lord, what is this? I do the right thing and I go to jail? This isn't fair. Where are you in all of this? Well, God's hand is all over it because he needed Joseph to be in jail. Again, he chooses to do the right thing and rises to prominence there. He becomes the right-hand dude of the jailkeeper so that he interacts with the prisoners, so that he sees the countenance of the chief cupbearer and baker when they're put into jail and they have a dream. Joseph is there to see how discouraged they are. He interacts with them. They tell them his dreams. He interprets them accurately. And off they go back to Pharaoh. One dies, his head is lifted off, and one is restored to his position as cupbearer. 2 years pass. 2 years. Pharaoh has this infamous dream about the famine. The cupbearer suddenly remembers Joseph, feels guilty for not remembering him sooner, tells Pharaoh about him. He's brought in, he's cleaned up. In one day, he gets cleaned up and brought to Pharaoh. Pharaoh gives him the dream, and he gives God all the credit. Who can interpret dreams but God alone? And he prays and he asks the Lord for interpretation. It's given to him. In such a short span of time, Joseph goes from being a prisoner to being second in command in all of Egypt. I can't even imagine how much his head was spinning. But I also think he's still struggling with hurt of the trauma of being sold by his brothers. Because as he institutes this plan, this administrative plan that he's come up with, he's a problem solver. He's learned to do that in Potiphar's household. He has to solve the problem of famine. And he comes up with a plan. And Jacob hears about food being in Egypt, sends the boys, men. Joseph encounters his brothers. And as he interacts with them, to try to condense the story here, he begins to realize that God had been orchestrating this whole thing, had sent him ahead in order to preserve their lives. And that realization of the why empowered Joseph to forgive. He tested his brothers a little bit, but he eventually forgave them, and they were reconciled, and he was used of God to preserve their lives. So, beloved, we must purpose to do what God tells us to do, when he tells us to do it, in his strength, for his glory, regardless of the outcome. Obedience is what God is looking for. There may be times when we choose to do the right thing and, man, it unleashes some difficult circumstances for us, but God is still in them, using them, preparing us for things that are coming up. In the end, beloved, it will make sense. It may not make sense now, but you don't have to understand the why. You just need to put your faith in the who. Who is behind all of it? God himself. God himself is behind it. Beloved, I encourage you to keep doing the next right thing, the next thing he shows you, in his strength, for his glory. It will work out in the end, and you will understand, you will see, and you will rejoice. I hope this encourages you. I hope you have a blessed week in Jesus. We'll see you next time.